Hello, I'm Salah Iyad Husni Barakat, the head coach of Team Vitality Valorant, and today I'll be talking about the CARE project and someone who I held very dear to my heart, of course, Twiston. Twiston, otherwise called Kaya or Karel, unfortunately passed away due to mental health issues. He was someone I considered my little brother. Very much so, and I think he allowed me this, and his family have allowed me that, of course. He was the most caring, supportive, beautiful human being I've seen in a while. He was someone who was very, of course, open with his mental health issues. He wore them on his chest as he did his character. It kind of represents and shows with this CARE project. I think it's perfect for a guy like him.
Ready? And action.
The things are like...
Nice. Okay, let's get another pro come in. Right? Now here. Here.
Vitality.
I have the other ones with me.
Oh, how sweet.
When I found out about Twiston's passing, I think it was probably the worst day of my life. I think it was the worst day of my life. The range of emotions you feel, the things I felt, kind of were otherworldly. At first there's this disbelief almost. You don't really want to believe it happened. It's, a joke maybe, or you're dreaming maybe. It was as if something from me had been taken, like a personal part of me had been taken. I think with Twiston, my relationship with him was so close to the point where it was as if I was living through another human being, like if he was happy, I would feel happy. If he was sad, I would feel sad. How are you feeling overall? Good. Okay. Twiston, how are you today?
Hello, Salah.
Hello, Twiston.
I'm feeling fucking amazing, yeah, boys.
That first day and that first month maybe, but especially the first 2 weeks, time just stopped. The pain and the kind of crushing of the soul it's hard to describe, I would say. It's almost as if you get, a part of yourself ripped off. It's almost hard to know how to carry on after that first period. Like you have this thing, and it's gone, and it will never be there again, and it will never come back. And you try and picture, as you in your brain, you kind of make it so he's still there. You remember all the times you had, you look at photos, you do these things, and he's still there.
So you got
it's not gone. You just don't see him.
earring?
And for the first period, you're just paralyzed. You're paralyzed emotionally. I went through periods of immense bursts of crying, and then sadness, just silent sadness, and then pain. You feel angry. I would genuinely feel angry. I'd feel angry at the world. How could the world do this? And after the anger, you maybe try and find a little bit of happiness in the times you spend together, or thinking about all the things. And you just go through these cycles. And for the first week, I would say, I was going through cycles. I would lay there alone, think about all the things I used to say to him, think about all the times we had. And then I'd think about what I'm feeling right now. And I tried really hard to kind of recognize what was going on in my body, because I'd never felt it before, right? It's paralyzing. And I think at a certain point you become numb to everything else. You don't feel anything else around you. This is where you kind of lose sense of reality, because how can you be happy? How can you be sad about anything else? How can you be angry about anything else? You don't live in the same reality as you used to because of this thing. The process after the first initial week and after the first period it's hard, right? Personally, I had panic attacks, for example. I had these moments of that I'd never had in my life, panic attacks. And at first you think, yeah, this is not going to get better. This is it's always going to be bad. Everything is going to be bad. I think for me, the most important thing was having people around me, people like Karel's family, for example, who have become a second family to me. people like Vitality, my family, my girlfriend, my friends. I think as soon as I realized of everyone around me, as soon as I noticed, okay, there are people around me, they care about me, they love me, and I think it kind of snapped me out of this thing that I was going through, and I think that, you know, that's when the panic attack stopped. It was a curse and a blessing almost, because I had to go through that pain I spoke about in front of so many people in terms of the esports, you know. You go through it in front of so many people, it's so public, it's so out in the open, people get their opinions on anything, right? And that is painful, and that is hard, and it's unique. I think, you know, it's hard to say that a lot of people have that experience, but I think there was also a beauty in it, because I had an immense level of love coming towards me, and an immense level of support from my family and also from the outer world. I had, you know, I spoke to people who had gone through similar things in their life and who I maybe would never have spoken to. Maybe I wouldn't have had the chance. And they were able to give me these beautiful pieces of their life and, you know, help me and give advice. People who I would never have spoken to were out, you know, was reaching out and trying to help me, trying to give me advice, doing things to make me feel better. And I think it is beautiful. And I think that part of the process was the one I needed the most. I needed a way out. I needed a path out of that hole that you go into, right? I think a lot of people think, yeah, don't worry, it will pass in time. It will get better. And it will never get better. You'll never be the same. However, I'll learn to live with this new person I am, the part that's missing. I'll gain other parts of myself. I'll add more to myself. I've lost that part, and that part is gone, unfortunately, but I can find comfort and I can find happiness within this new person I am. And I think that's my biggest effort nowadays. It's not necessarily trying to feel the same way as I used to, or it's not necessarily trying to feel happy as I was then, because it's a different kind of happiness with a different person, with a different, you know, landscape. It would be very easy for me to sit here and try and find happiness like my old self, like, you know, with Kaya around or in different situations. But I think if I continued to chase that in my life, how can I feel happiness that's not there anymore, right? How can I feel happiness from a place that's not there anymore? I think therapy helped an immense amount. I think not necessarily having someone to spew everything, but just someone to talk to, someone who isn't necessarily biased in a certain way. I think my family, my support system, Vitality, for example, the community, you weren't treated like a burden, you were never treated like a problem, right? And I think for me, where I'm at right now is healthy, it's good, it's a good place because of the steps I kind of took and because of the people around me. They helped me a lot. Day by day, just if I'm laughing, if I'm happy, it doesn't mean that I forgot about him. It doesn't mean that I don't have, you know, I don't think about him every day, that I don't see him in my dreams. It doesn't mean any of these things. It means that I found happiness in this situation I'm in life and in this point in my life. I got that from my mum. She's my hero, and I think the thing about being able to carry on, and I think especially in the name of him, I think one thing that I live my life by nowadays, and I say to myself, this is two things, one when it comes to esports and one when it comes to life. When it comes to esports, I need to be able to feel, I need to win, and I need to be able to feel the feeling that I was supposed to feel with him. This is my goal. The second thing for me is, if I let myself die as a human, personality-wise, if I give up on everything, if I stop and I don't carry on and I don't do things to make myself better and I don't do things to put myself in a better place, then part of me died too. And I think, I can't think of a thing that Twiston would have hated more. I think I live through myself and I live for myself as he would have wanted me to, and as also, we knew each other, right? Because I think it's bullshit if I let that part of me die. The last conversation I had with Twiston before he passed away was about how great he was doing, about how, you know, he was in a better place, and I was so fucking proud of him about where he was in life mentally, and, you know, that was the last conversation I had with him, and he was, you know, on the outside visibly better. And there were times where he wasn't okay visibly, and he made it known to me, you know. Whenever he felt bad, he used to come to my room. He used to sit there and cry together for 2 hours, and then we would sit there for 3 hours and talk about football or talk about something else, talk about something fun. We would talk about his family. If he needed help, he would say, "Salah, I need help." But I think the last time I spoke to him was the time he said he visibly looked good. And I think it kind of shows how mental health works, right? sometimes people will make it obvious, and I think you need to help them in those times. And I think sometimes people won't make it obvious. Sometimes they will hide it because they fear what it will do to you, because they're afraid, because it can be paralyzing. The brain wants you to feel alone, it wants you to feel isolated, and I think that is very overpowering, and I think that's when, you know, it does really take someone around them to pull them out. I think sometimes it just takes asking someone how are they. It just takes, you know, spending a good time with someone, right? At the worst, you spend a nice day with your friend. At the worst, you spend a nice day with your member of your family. At the worst, you had a conversation, a long conversation. At the worst, you spent a good time with someone. And I think the most important thing is just making sure you're there for people no matter what. You know, nowadays with my players, I'm trying to develop a culture of high-level athletes. I've taken a lot of care into and a lot of thinking into is understanding them as human beings, understanding where they come from, where do they find happiness from, where do they find sadness from. For me as a coach, for example, I need to make sure that my players always fucking feel like they have someone to talk to. They always feel like they're not alone. The intensity of our job and the pressure that comes with it can be overpowering. It can be very stressful. I think my biggest thing as a coach for them is trying to make sure that they have help with that and to make sure that their pressure isn't too much. No matter what it is, whether it's media, whether it's, you know, the public opinion, the public voice, is to make sure that they always have they always know that Vitality and me are behind them. The care initiative, that's kind of the goal of it, to make sure that there is, first of all, awareness about it, but second of all, a platform where people can either find help for themselves or help for others. Make sure that you at least somewhat check out this initiative within the esports scene. I think it's something that is very much needed. I think in esports, as it becomes more of a cared for topic, I think it's so much more important that we have initiatives like this that are there for platform reasons, to build a platform, to make sure that there's always a voice there and there's always something there that you can have to fall back on. And as well as that, make sure you check out the Twiston Foundation and, you know, set up by his amazing family, and make sure that you go and support that foundation, because I think it's also just an amazing initiative that can help a lot of people. And I think anything that can help a lot of people is always worth some of your time.